Good. So we're live, and you know the crazy shit is we're live, and we got two dislikes already. I just
Well,
hit.
the trolls are always first, man.
You know they're fast, man.
Got, they ain't got nothing better to do, so you
Yeah,
know.
they are lightning fast. All right, so
You know, you ever watch the Chappelle Show?
yeah,
One of my favorite skits is the player haters ball. That's one of my favorite skits.
that is funny. All right, so guys, thank you for joining us today. This is the Angry Prepper. As you can see, that's the Canadian Prepper on the screen. We were talking about trolls just as I hit the live button, if you will, because that's what they do best. And listen, they are part of YouTube. They are part of the YouTube community. Without trolls or people that challenge you, your YouTube channel is, in my opinion, you know, one-sided. But if trolls and people challenge you, you got something going because people are looking to challenge you for a reason. That being said, thank you for again joining us today, and thank you for sticking with us. So right now, Canadian, we have 442 watches, which is pretty good.
Nice. Awesome.
Now, guys, let me start out with the usual bullshit. But how do I look, and how do I sound, and how does the Canadian Prepper look, and how does he sound?
Do a mic test here. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing.
Be ready today. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate it, man. Thanks. Everyone is saying hello, what's up, so they see us. And of course, we're always going to have someone. But whatever. Someone talking shit. But it is what it is. Again, it's part of YouTube. All right. His audio's low. All right, AP's audio's low. They're saying one person said your audio's low. I don't know what that's if you can do anything about that. But other than that, I think we are doing good. All right.
How's that?
On my end, you sound. They said y'all sound good, great, good stuff, all good. All right, so everyone's saying we're good. All right.
All right.
So now let's get it started because, well, guys, if the Canadian prepping is too low for you, just hold your ear closer to the computer. That's the best I can tell you.
I'll try to talk a little louder.
All right, there you go. So. Again, guys, this is the Canadian Prepper. He has his own YouTube channel. You should head over to there. I've been following him for years, actually. And a lot of the things he say, I agree with him, like anything else. He has a lot of great tips, and he has a lot of good gear review. I'm a big fan of his gear review. What I'm a bigger fan of is his bug out roll. We'll get into that a little later. But that thing is... I'm really, really impressed with it. I mean, so we're going to talk about that a little later. Layla, sorry. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. His voice is level at 2. Again, guys, if his voice is too low, either A, put headphones on, or B, listen carefully. There's not much I could do on his end with the audio. Sorry for that. Now, let's get to it. These are questions I'm going to run past you. There's approximately 11, but I might throw some curveballs in there, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
All right, so first question is, how long have you been prepping?
Oh, it's probably going to be about 10 years this October.
All right. Well, we've been prepping the same time. We started around the same time then. Nice. All right, what inspired you to prepare?
Write a book on this, man. It was probably the internet when I think about it, because the internet gave me a glimpse of human nature that I hadn't seen up until that point. We were talking about trolls at the beginning, but the internet really gave us a window into the minds of people, and it was, it was back in maybe 2008. When I really started to pay more attention to alternative forms of media, and just all the stuff that was going on in the world at the time, and I started to look at my situation, and throughout my my entire 20s, I was, I did the whole thing. I went to university, I got the degree, all that stuff, was a starving student. But I never really had a lot of practical skills. So it kind of occurred to me at one point that, if something were to go down because this window into the internet or into the world through the internet was showing me, can I swear on here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe I'll save my F-bombs for later. But, it gave me a glimpse as to just how crazy, the world was. And that I need to be prepared should things go south. And I was not prepared. I was wholly dependent on the system and technology. And so that just kind of snowballed into what I have going on today, which is the Canadian Prepper channel. And I should say right from the get-go, I'm not an expert at preparedness. This is an ongoing journey of discovery and learning. So, sometimes people levy the criticism against YouTubers, and sometimes as we make more videos, it starts to come off as we're experts. But really, I would say, especially with regards to preparedness, nobody's really an expert, especially when we're talking about prepping for the big stuff. Nobody's really been through that. Now we all have a bit more experience, but I would still say there's a lot to learn. Like, it's a lifelong learning experience. So that's where I'm at today.
Oh, very good. Now, Prepper Princess, thank you for the donation. Again, I appreciate any and all donation, guys. Thank you. Well, that was a really good explanation. You know what's funny? The whole thing with the expert thing, when people say, "Oh, he's an expert," let's say, like prepper or survivalist, because I do some wilderness stuff. I'm like, I am by no means, like you said, experts. There's too much to learn to be an expert. It's not. This field is ever changing, and yes, like you said, we had more experience now that we've gone through a pandemic, civil unrest. So there's a lot to be learned from that, but I would never call myself an expert, and I hate when people refer to me to that, because I'm not. It's just not my field. I don't like when other preppers consider themselves expert. I have a problem with that, because I usually call them out on their bullshit. And I've had one or two guys who came to my group who swore they were experts and fell flat. And after that encounter, I was like, whoa, no dice, man, no dice. I couldn't get down with it. John, thank you for the donation. John Mingus. I appreciate the donation, man. All right, so next question. What were you preparing for, or what are you preparing for? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, if your viewers have watched any of my videos, I've probably made around 1,000 videos. So
really,
for any of you who, probably more than that. I've deleted a few. But if you watch my channel, I pretty much broached every possible topic. I wouldn't say I'm preparing for everything, but I'm considering everything. And obviously, right now, I would say the biggest thing on my mind, of course, is the economy, the virus issues, the environmental issues. Not so much the whole. Obviously, global conflict is there too. I mean, as Canada, I talk a lot about the United States. That's because, Canada and the United States are so similar that we're really like California. I mean, our population's around the same. Our laws are basically the same. We share the same culture. Even if you look at American and Canadian currency, it's essentially the same. We have dimes, nickels, quarters. So a lot of the things that you guys prepare for, we prepare for, I'm just strategically located in such a way that I'm not right on the front of all of it. But my biggest thing I'm preparing for, where I'm at, because I live in what's the equivalent of what might be the Midwest there in the United States, is trying to find a way to survive the winters. If I'm going to stay where I am right now, it's winter, which is going to be the biggest killer. So, if there was a lights out scenario, finding a way to be able to live indefinitely where I'm at without the grid and having a source of heating. That's my main mission right now, if I plan on staying here. Now, I've considered moving out to the West Coast, where there's a whole other slew of hazards. So, if I'm out there, I'm prepping for earthquakes, tsunamis, super volcano, whatever. But, yeah, I try to, right now, I'd say my main focus is on the economy and the civil unrest, how that's going to affect our elections. It will be interesting to see how it all plays out in the next 90 days here.
Very good. So, Ray, thank you for the donation, man. I appreciate it. Again, guys, thank you for the donations. So, this is a question that I didn't have, but you brought up a good point, or a segue. Do you think what happens here in the United States affects you guys in Canada? Right? So, being that we have Trump and everyone hates him. Carmen, thank you for the donation. Being that we have Trump and everyone hates him, does the decisions he make, or any president in the United States make, affects Canada in any way?
Absolutely. I mean, we're like the tugboat in the United States. We're if you guys go down, we're going down. Okay, we provide you guys with a lot of resources, but you provide us with nuclear protection, and it's kind of a mutual relationship. It's a symbiotic relationship. There's places I can go in British Columbia where I can walk across the street, and I'm literally in the United States, and we have one of the largest borders. So, if the United States sneezes, we catch a cold. I know I probably blew that saying, but essentially that's what it is. So yeah, I mean we're joined like this, and if the United States were to descend into civil unrest, I don't know how long it would necessarily take to get up here. I'm sure there'd be a lot of people who were possibly fleeing here, but realistically, in a real true grid down scenario, I've speculated, a lot of people think, oh, Canada's safe and everybody's going to want to go to Canada. I actually think the reverse is going to be true. I actually think a lot of Canadians will be forced to go south, where you follow the weather. And I mean that's in a Mad Max situation. That's like probably the least likely, like a World War III high altitude electromagnetic pulse situation. A lot of Canadians are actually going to be going to the States. Now, an interesting thing I've noticed with Canadian and American politics is that whenever there's a conservative in office in the States, it seems like the reverse is true here. So throughout Obama years, we had Stephen Harper, who was a conservative, and throughout the Trump years, we got like the most leftist, you can imagine, with Trudeau. Well, by some people's standards, okay? So it's just an interesting dynamic that we have going as two countries. And there's definitely, like I said, everything you guys do affects us the next day. The economy, everything. So, absolutely. Your smoke blows up here.
Very good. Tina and Believer, thank you for the donations. I appreciate it. Thank you for that. So, next question. Let's see. How bad was COVID in Canada? And I know that's going to start like a firestorm in the chat room, because people like COVID's fake, and then COVID's deadly. But how did Canada, if you will, handle COVID? Because I wasn't following it, and so that's why I'm asking.
I think it was pretty much just like you guys did there. It wasn't really a full-on lockdown. A lot of it was voluntary. There was mandatory shutdowns of many facilities. There was maybe some minor unrest when the whole protests started going on there in May and June. Some of that came up here in the bigger cities that we have here. Obviously not to the same extent as it was there, but there was a bit of anarchy. Not much, but a little bit. As for the pandemic, our numbers are pretty much proportionally the same as the United States, except we're about 50% proportionally less cases. So if you guys get 1 million cases, As Canada is 10 times smaller, we would get 100,000, but we'd actually only get 50,000. So it seems to be following that, trajectory. So because we're such a spread out country, and it takes a long time to travel anywhere, it's it doesn't seem to be spreading in certain places as fast. Like as you're finding in some of your states, they haven't really seen the first wave yet because they've been kind of far removed from the major centers in the East Coast and the like in the left coast, and so yeah, I'd say it's pretty much, Canada is just like a reflection of the United States. Like Toronto is like New York. Uh, Winnipeg is kind of like Chicago, especially in crime.
Winnipeg.
Yeah. Like where I am in the Midwest, it's just like the Midwest there. Our Texas is kind of like Alberta. That's where the oil and the cowboys are. And then the West Coast is just like Seattle and California. It's so basically whatever happened in those states happened here.
All right, very good. Northern Girl, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. Again, guys, thanks. So, quick question. Is your border still closed? Like, could I, if I was to come up to Canada, would they break my balls?
No, I think our borders are open now. I'm not too sure, to be exact. I'd have to look into that. I'm sure there's definitely open for trade. I'm not so sure about, if there's restrictions on. I don't think they're quarantining anymore, but I could be wrong about that. But I have a feeling that is going to pick up in the not so distant future here, because there's definitely something percolating right now. COVID has kind of taken a bit of a break, but we all knew it was going to, and I feel that once the schools they're now opened up, it's going to start to spread rapidly. So I foresee in the next 6 to 8 weeks, right around election time, the numbers are going to peak. The chaos is just going to peak in 6 to 8 weeks, and people, on so many fronts. The civil unrest thing, I heard that in the United States, and maybe you could clarify this for me, but apparently there was a stimulus bill that just got rejected again, and I can only imagine what kind of craziness that's going to cause if people can't get their basic needs met. Is this just going to keep getting worse?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's I think COVID has a potential to be a big disruptor in the next 8 weeks. Whether you want to believe it's lethal or not is kind of secondary.
Right, and then that's pretty much what I tell everybody when I get in the constant bickerings. But 2 messages. One, thank you, Jason D, Barbara, and Tammy. Thank you for the donations. Secondly, guys, do me a favor, hit the like button. We have 1,461 viewers. If you can hit the like button, but it helps the YouTube algorithm. So, next question. What is your prediction for the rest of this year? Since you sort of touched on it already, what do you think is going to happen for the rest of this year, or how do you think the rest of this year is going to end? This is like a movie, and you can't wait to see how it ends.
I don't think it's going to end this year. I think you could probably say that 2020 is just going to be the beginning, because I don't know everything there is to know about your election process, but what I've heard, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a chance that Trump could win or it could appear that he's won because of the mail-in ballots and stuff like that, but maybe later would be contested, and then that could create some unrest, of course, if people feel that the election has been meddled with in some way, shape, or form. Now, in Canada, there is talk that they might call an election, and in Canada, it's more selective. Like, it's not just every 4 years. Like, they can call an election essentially whenever they want. So, and they might do that because they might be worried about the outcome of the U.S. election. So, we could potentially have our suburban issues here. Like the United States, you guys got the urban issues. We're like the suburbs of the United States, okay?
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that obviously you have the wildfire situation going on. The climate is doing some really strange things this year. I know a lot of people don't subscribe to this notion, but I pay close attention to Arctic conditions and just the climate in general, and it's one of the lowest sea ice ever on record this year. So we just have so much, and then once the California wildfires die down, the Australian wildfires are going to pick up, and of course the economy. Right now, I'm really not sure about the economy. I really don't know what that's going to do. I know, or at least my gut is telling me, that come January, that's when the real depression is going to start. Because, after all these election promises, after all that shit's done, right?
Right.
After, the whole hoopla is done there, then, we're going to see, okay, what are we really dealing with here? Every country in the world has racked up a major deficit as a result of this whole COVID thing, and those are debts that we have to pay next year. And from what I hear, that eviction moratorium has been bumped back in the States till January. Are they going to bump that back further again? Who knows? It sounds like they're just trying to push the chaos, into the future. So I think in January things are gonna. It's not going to be like a Mad Max situation or anything like that. It's going to be a slow, dreary, lengthy, drawn-out collapse, I think. I hope it's not going to be that. I hope that, they can keep the economy. I hope they can bring the plane down nicely. But...
No crash landing?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel that if a person is in the markets right now, I would strongly consider just getting out and staying out until after the election, because there's just so much volatility, and that bubble's got to pop at some point, I think. And there's just so many things. I mean, there's still the Iranian issue. That's still an issue. Remember, we started the year with almost World War III, starting with Iran, right? With China. Whether that would have escalated to World War III is debatable. I actually don't think it would, but it certainly would have been a major conflict, okay? So we still have that. The Iranians are still pissed off about that. And the Middle East is destabilizing because of the low oil prices. So if things don't ramp up here, and if they don't get a vaccine, and then the vaccine is going to create more chaos, because there's probably going to be some kind of vaccine pass that you're going to have if you want to do certain things, and people are going to be protesting that, and so you're going to have the left protesting whatever the left protests, and then you're going to have the right protesting the vaccine. So it's just going to be a perfect storm, man. So all I can say is keep doing what we're doing. Keep prepping. Keep our finger over the button, because time to bug out might come anytime.
Thank you. Listen, I really hope not. Not being that I'm in the city, but if I have to, I have to. Like I said, I have backup plans in play, so hopefully I don't have to actually initiate them. Real quick message, Citizen, best bar in town, and Teresa, thank you for the donations. I appreciate it. Next question, and this is a, I guess this is pertaining to your videos, the All American Prepper. Is there a difference between American preppers and Canadian preppers?
Yeah, first off, I should say the All American Prepper is a caricature that I use to make fun of everybody. So I make fun of people across the political spectrum. Obviously, All American Prepper himself is kind of the subject of, he's part of the joke, but he's also poking fun at other people. So yeah, there's a bit of my alter ego blended in there, and
Okay.
it's not meant to, you know, demean or, you know, put anybody down. It's just to make people laugh, you know, and sometimes we got to take ourselves a bit more lightly. Now, in terms of the differences between American and Canadian preppers, as you would expect, because we tend to lean a bit more left of center here in Canada, on the whole, at least relative to the US, obviously our priority is going to be a bit different. So, although we can have firearms, there's a lot of guns in Canada. A lot of people don't know that, but there's a lot of guns in Canada, although they're slowly being taken away. Um, there's not as much of a gun culture. There's not as much of a tactical culture. The biggest difference between America and Canada is that I can't open or conceal carry a firearm. Those are the two. That's the one biggest difference between that. And that's really the only difference, because
That's
the
huge.
only other difference would be the fact that there's probably proportionally less preppers here in Canada.
Really?
There's probably a lot more. Yeah, I mean, where it might be 3 to 5% in the U.S.,
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's probably 1% here in Canada.
Oh shit. Okay. Ah, I would have thought there would have been more than that, just because of the land and the fact that you guys get cold winters and a lot of bad storms. That most people would be ready for anything, kind of deal.
Yeah, I mean, okay, if you those people wouldn't call themselves
Preppers,
preppers.
right?
There's a lot of outdoor enthusiasts, and it really depends on where you go. Like if you go to Toronto, I mean, people there haven't left the city in years. You know,
Yes.
even though they're surrounded by a lot of very thick shield type boreal wilderness, they still are very urban. But if you come out to the Midwest, where the population density is very low, like where I live, the province I live, Saskatchewan, there's 1 million people, and it's a massive province the size of Texas, if not bigger. Uh, you know, yeah, people out here, they're farmers, so they naturally have those skills. And a farmer out here would never consider themselves a prepper, but in many ways, they are more prepper than a lot of preppers are, because they're used to, living out in the country, living off the land. But the only thing with modern farmers is they rely almost exclusively on chemicals and big tractors and gasoline and all this stuff and diesel, I should say, to power their equipment. So even though they have some exposure to the elements, more so maybe than some people down there, when it comes down to it, I don't know how much better prepared they're going to be, aside simply having that exposure and that familiarity with maybe being in the bush. But yeah, there is the stereotypical Canuck in the woods type thing,
Not in the woods.
The French voyageur.
Okay. So somebody made the comment on the side here, and I was going to ask you that. Though your title is Canadian Prepper, right? Does the term prepper bother you in any sense? So, meaning, when people refer to preppers, they usually refer to kooks with, tinfoil hats on, and then there are people who refer to preppers as just that, people who prepare. How do you look at the word preppers? Offensive or just a word?
Yeah, I think the word has been contaminated by popular culture, obviously. I actually made a comment about this in the All-American Prepper video today, that I feel a lot of the language that we've used, it's almost like a meme. It was started and we just kind of ran with it. Like shit hits the fan, tiatwaki, prepper, bug out. These are all terms that some guy just said in a forum someday, and, it stuck. So yeah, I think the term prepper probably, in hindsight, I mean, the reason why I chose that word was obviously because it was recognizable and people would know what my channel was about. But yeah, I think that the verbiage that we use could use a fine tuning. I think that, if we're going to be viewed in a more respectable way, by the masses, if that even really matters at that point. Not that I really care so much about that, but on the same token, I have a saying that, every person I can convert into being a prepper is one less marauder out there. So,
That is true.
one less person who's in need when the shit hits the fan. So, yeah, I mean, I think that we could probably change the name. I've considered changing the name, but at this point, we'll have to see what happens in the next 6 months.
Well,
Hopefully, we can have a conversation like this in 6 months. Still, we'll see.
yeah, that's a little on edge. So, Saint Vic, Tommy M, and Northern Girl. Thank you for the donations. I appreciate it. So we're gonna switch gears a little bit. What is your favorite caliber when it comes to firearms?
Well, I mean, it really depends on what we're using it for. I mean, I
People.
have for people. Yeah. See, Canada, it's taboo to talk about that, right? Right now, I have the what is it? 7 point? Is it 7? I can't even remember. I haven't been to the range lately. 7.6 by 39 in my SKS, and then the what is the standard ammunition in the AR platforms? It's a 5.56.
5.56 or 2.23 depends on the barrel.
Yeah, I mean, but also, in my personal opinion, and this is where it's going to be kind of a contentious issue, is I think that the shotgun is a great prepper, like a universal prepper item, namely because it's the last gun that gets banned in any country.
Really?
Because,
okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the least effective beyond a certain range. So the authorities don't think you can take over the parliament with it, I guess. So I think a shotgun is kind of my go-to home defense weapon.
Right.
But I have to say as a disclaimer, because of Canadian law, right, that that's just under Mad Max circumstances where there was no rule of law. Okay.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
yeah. But no, we can have all that stuff here. They're taking the ARs away, but go figure, we can still have Tavors, which is like a far more expensive firearm, probably not as modifiable. I don't proclaim to be a firearms expert, but shoddy and decent rifle for hunting, 308. That's what I use.
All right.
I don't have a pistol.
Very good. I know someone said, when I said people, someone was like, oh no, like why would he say that? Because I'm always curious where people's head is at. So, what is, out of everything I'm pretty sure that you've collected over the years, what is your go-to gear that you really like? Like when you purchased it, you were like, man, this is the shit. And still think that of it.
Yeah, you're kind of breaking up there. How's my audio coming through?
Your audio's fine.
Okay, perfect. Right now, obviously, it changes all the time, and I would say that my favorite gear is probably the gear that I use most. So it would have to be something EDC related.
Okay.
Now, my favorite knife up until I lost it was the Benchmade Bug Out because it was lightweight, and they haven't paid me to. This is not like a promotion or anything like that. But that was a great knife because it was lightweight. It was very durable. It was a perfect knife. Now I'm rocking this. This is the Cold Steel American Lawman. So it's a pretty cool knife. Very sturdy. So, my paracord belt is always with me just in case. I've never had to use it, but that contains all sorts of various survival trinkets. It's made of the Survivor cord. I heard you mention that yesterday with your Prepper Princess talk. And Survivor Cord's great stuff. You might as well have Survivor Cord on you if you can.
Right.
I also have EDC, my flashlight. We just got these into the store here. This is a Nightcore, what is it, a GTID. And it's really tiny.
Okay.
But it's 300 lumens, so it's incredibly bright.
Right. Wow.
Like it's, yeah.
Okay.
It's a key channel, but it's incredibly bright. So right now, my EDC is set up to be very lightweight. And then, of course, we got the Leatherman we're rocking here at all times, too. We got to keep that on us at all times.
Very good.
So, yeah, there's a lot of gear. I mean, I have so much gear. Even in this car right now, I'm going to go shoot some flashlight videos pretty soon here as the sun's going down. So,
all right. Well, yeah, I mean, the problem with gear is like when you blink, all of a sudden you got all this shit, and you're like, fuck, what am I going to do with this stuff, But it's amazing the amount of gear you accumulate over the years, for prepping, because I use that as the excuse, the prepper excuse to buy more shit, but it really isn't. Just me to spend money on stuff I don't need.
Well, but now you have a YouTube channel, so you can write some of it off if you do reviews of it.
True, that is true, very true. So, what would be your go-to bug-out vehicle for getting out of the city?
Like, as in what vehicle I would like, or what vehicle is currently available to me?
No, what vehicle you would like, because obviously whatever's available to you would be what you're driving right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously right now I'm driving a Toyota Tundra, and it's reliable, so that's the main reason why I go with Toyota right now. But ideally, and I've made several videos about the Cybertruck, I'm a big fan of electric vehicles. I think an EV for preppers is just a no-brainer, EV is a simpler technology, barring an electromagnetic pulse, which has a very low probability of occurring. And even with an electromagnetic pulse, the likelihood of it actually damaging your car beyond repair is only like 5%.
Right.
And that's not just a number I pulled out of my ass. That's from a NASA engineer. Okay. So I think an EV with off-road capabilities, obviously 4-wheel drive would be beneficial. But again, 4-wheel drive is useful. I don't think it's necessarily a deal breaker if you don't have it, because if you're talking about on roads, then you really don't need 4-wheel drive ever. And if there is an obstruction on a road, it doesn't matter if you have 4-wheel drive. You're not driving over a downed light pole or something like that. It's just not going to happen, So 4-wheel drive has its limits too. But in the here and now, because that doesn't exist yet, I would say ideally it would be some kind of diesel, because the fuel is more stable, it lasts longer. There's not going to be as many lineups for diesel because there's not as many, cars that run on it. You'll be able to siphon it from heavy machinery. So I would say, probably a diesel. But I guess, at the end of the day, whatever you got is what you got. A truck, for me, makes the most sense because you could load it with stuff. And some people like the SUV. I've kind of moved on from SUVs, but so right now I would say a truck would be my ideal bug-out vehicle.
Very good.
Platform-wise.
All right, so this is a morals question. I asked it on my my YouTube channel community board thing. And I asked Prepper Princess this last night, rather, sorry. So, if you came upon an obvious prepper's emergency stash, would you take it or leave it?
Yeah, I mean, it would really depend on the situation. Like, if we're talking about, I'm sure most of your viewers have probably seen the movie The Road.
Right.
If we're talking about a situation like that, where Victor Morganson or whatever his name is, he stumbles upon that stash of prepper food with his son, and you're desperate and you're hungry. Well, I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? You're going to take some of it.
Right.
Now, it really depends on the severity of the situation. I don't think I would, if I felt that there was people there still or people relying on that, I would never clean it out entirely. I would take what I needed. But again, it's easy to say that when we're not in the end of days.
Right.
So, I mean, if the trees are falling down and the world's on fire and there's no food in sight, maybe it just turns into dog eat dog and all of our morals and ethics go out the window. I mean, nobody really knows at this point. I mean, obviously, there's some people who are going to escalate to that much quicker. And I believe that those people, though, I believe the marauders and the psychopaths, they're going to get wiped pretty quick, within the first few months. If that's your strategy for survival, is robbing people, you're probably not going to last that long. You might win a few battles, but eventually you're going to get your wig split, as my buddy Big Herc would say.
So it's funny you said that, because a few years ago I spoke to a guy. We were talking about prepping, and in the conversation, at some point I go, "Well, you know what, man? You can just prepare slowly, a little bit at a time, get food, and build up to it." He goes, "Why would I do that? I got a gun." He says, "I'm just going to take what I need." I've never in my entire life ended a conversation so quickly and so awkwardly, if you will. Because it was just like, okay, this guy is an asshole, right? If that was his first inclination, was to rob somebody once the shit is down, that speaks volumes as a person to him. So now, what does the rest of the city look like if you have this one guy that thinks like that? How many other people think like that behind him, right? It's got to be a few thousand. And then that's the bigger issue. People like him. Now, not in a million years would I thought I'd speak to somebody who would outright say, "Yeah, I'll just take somebody else's stuff." But there we were, and at that weird moment, I was just like, "Damn, man! Like this guy, and he has no problem hurting you for it." So when he said that, he opened my eyes to a bigger issue.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like that out there. Most people, I think they don't know what they would do, but I'm guessing that there's a handful of ride and die people like that who are just, are okay saying that. Maybe some of them are just talking. It's hard to say, but there's.
True.
I would say that the ones I'd be worried about are the ones that aren't saying nothing. Those are the people, and just the sketchy people. Like there's a lot of the real bad people out there are the ones. I'm not really worried about the ones who make it apparent that they're bad people. I'm worried about the people who don't make it so apparent. Those are the people who I worry about. I don't worry about the zombies. In all those zombie movies, you'll find that the main antagonists are always other people. And for me, what that tells me is that the main people I have to worry about in an SHDF situation aren't the zombies who are poorly equipped and unarmed and just operating like a herd mob mentality. Sure, you got to worry about them to a certain extent, but they kind of scurry like cockroaches too, right? So you got to worry about the calculated killers, for lack of a better term. You got to worry about the people who are more creative in their destructive tendencies. Those are the people I'd be worried about. I'm not so worried about just the people who are looting and stuff like that. I did a video back in the day about 7 criminal threats that I brainstormed, because it's all theory.
Right.
But looters are kind of on the bottom, because they're not really operating with a strategy or a game plan or anything like that. They're kind of like the zombie, because they're just operating on their base limbic system. They're not really trying to screw you over. So yeah, there's going to be those people out there who are going to do that. And for that guy, I think that guy's kind of dumb to say that to you, to be honest. Because now right? So I think he'll probably get wiped pretty quick. Hopefully, if he's your friend, I don't,
No.
That
He wasn't
that way, but
he wasn't a friend. He was just a guy that I worked with in security a long time ago.
Yeah.
Listen, like I said, after saying something like that, I was just a little, listen, because I was new to prepping, it wasn't the answer I thought I was going to get. So with that, I was just like, shit, that was pretty bad. But real quick,
Yeah.
Autumn, R Bad, and Sarita, thank you for the donations. I appreciate it. Thank you again. So, next question. These are probably, I'm going to say fun questions, if you will.
Get some lighting.
Uh, so, favorite color?
Favorite color?
Yeah.
I don't. I guess. I don't want to. I don't want to say a political. Any color you choose is political. Let's just say gray.
Okay. Very good. Great. Cat or dog?
I have dogs. I have two German Shepherds. So obviously dogs, but I appreciate cats because I think they're the real preppers. Because they're the self-reliant. I like the independence of a cat. I think if the apocalypse came, cats would survive probably more than dogs because dogs need packs, and these dogs are so domesticated. But I had a cat, and those cats, they can hunt, and so you got to appreciate the cat because they're independent. So they might even bring you food. You could probably train them to bring you pigeons or something.
All right, so real quick, Sarita, yeah, I know, right? That's true. They can't bring you food. Sarita asked a question. What do you think of DEW, direct energy weapons? Do you think they are real?
Direct energy weapons. Well, I mean, they're definitely real. The Army has been experimenting with those for probably a couple decades now, and you can buy laser pointers off eBay, and like laser pointers that actually burn things. So they're undoubtedly real, but I'm assuming, I'm gonna make an ass out of myself, but I'm assuming that this question stems from a lot of the talk right now because there's these conspiracy theories about using directed energy weapons from space to light the California and Oregon fires. And so, no, I don't believe that is what's occurring there if she was asking that in a roundabout way. But yeah, directed energy weapons absolutely exist.
All right, very good. Because I didn't know where to go with that question.
Yeah,
I've heard of it before.
Go on YouTube. They got them on naval vessels for shooting down airplanes.
Right. All right, so next question. Favorite movie genre?
Well, you know what it is. Sci-fi, post-apocalyptic.
All right.
Thriller.
Oh, favorite prepper book?
Oh, there's so many, man. In terms of... I don't really have a favorite. I've read so many now that it's kind of just white noise. But I would recommend that people read Raven Rock. You can get it on Audible, too. It's all about how the government is prepping for shit hits the fan. And, they're doing it. It documents the history of the government's SHTF preparations, basically, and how they tried to keep it from people and, So I would strongly recommend Raven Rock. I actually did a video on it. It's good.
I'm pretty much going to piss off this one person. But what is your astrological... what is your sign? Sorry.
Well, if people haven't figured it out yet, I tend to weigh the scales of justice. So Libra, that's my sign. I don't know if that makes any difference on a personality whatsoever, but that's my sign.
No, because someone asked that. They said, if you ask that question, I'm going to unsubscribe. So I had to ask the question. Pushing the button. Anyway, favorite prepper food. If the chips are down, what would be your go-to food in a SHTF scenario?
Well, the best prepping food money can buy is hands down freeze-dried food. There's no comparison, really. You could make the argument that it depends on the situation. Like for a bug-out situation, you could maybe make an argument that MRE is better because it has the water and it has a more diverse diversity of contents and a complete macronutrient profile that you need. But yeah, freeze-dried food. There's a new freeze-dried food that we just brought into the store, which I think destroys all other ones. It's called Peak Refuel, and they're getting a free plug here. So, anyways, yeah, it's Peak Refuel, and it's just a little bit better than Mountain House and a little bit better than Happy Yak. So, yeah, freeze-dried and MRE if there's a bug-out situation. I'm really not sure if MREs are as popular as they are because they're the best, or if it's just that it was the cheapest option the governments of the world could find to feed their soldiers. So, I'm not so sold on that yet. But the great thing about an MRE is that it's in a very durable package, and you can throw it in a bag. You can be rough with it. You can do a lot of, but the thing I don't like about them is there's so much garbage, and it takes so long to get your calories. You got to open this package. You got to do this. You got to do that. If you're on the move, if you're on the go and you want to get shit done, freeze-dried food where you just pour hot water in, or even, like a tack bar or something like that is probably more strategic in my opinion.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. All right, so...
But I should also just add one final thing. If a person's on a budget, right, then don't feel like you have to go out and buy these expensive foods, okay? Like, there's plenty of non-perishable foods that you can buy at your local grocery store for cheap. Only buy the 25-year shelf life stuff once you have all your other stuff squared away. But I would say that the number one thing that I personally feel is of value is food. Food, firearms, water, medicine. I mean, food, man. Especially nowadays, food, for sure.
All right. Next question. This is probably going back to more serious questions. But at what point would you bug out?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on how strategically you're located. For some people, they'll never have to bug out because they're already in their bug out location. But for a person like yourself, a bug out plan should be, I would say, on the top of your priority list because there's just so much that could go wrong. I mean, you're in the center of the world in New York City. If something is going wrong, it's going wrong in New York City. So, when would I bug out? If there was civil unrest in my region and it was escalating and I didn't feel that my community, my block, was able to resist that in a safe manner, then obviously, I would consider bugging out. But right now, I'm kind of in the middle of looking for a new rural property where I'm not going to have to worry about bugging out. But I always know that that's always an option. So I would say that if my security was at risk, or if there was a natural disaster which was coming down the pike and I didn't have a bunker, then obviously I would have to leave. But bugging out, we have to be realistic too, because in a lot of cases you're just going to a hotel in another city or province or state if the disaster is localized. But for some people, it especially nowadays with the economic situation, money is going to be an issue. So bugging out in the wilderness, where at one time it might have been kind of a fantasy, now, living like the hobos live, under the bridge might be what you have to do for some people. So, right. Yeah, you should have a bug out plan, man. Because if the power goes out for long periods and you're not hearing any sirens anymore for a while, maybe it's time to consider, whether or not staying is as good as going. And I guess it's going to be dictated by the amount of resources you have on hand. So if you have a lot of resources on hand and you have security, why would you put yourself in a situation that was going to be a more unsafe You wouldn't want to run out into the wilderness if you had no need. You would only do that as a last ditch resort. Right. So, yeah, it's one of those questions where you really need more context to answer.
Well, right. When I get asked these questions in interviews, I'm like, well, shit. That's hard to gauge because, like you said, civil unrest is one of them. But civil unrest would have to be where the gangs are about to run the street. Where I go outside and, like you said, there's no cops, no firemen, no EMTs, and gangs are actively patrolling the streets or about to actively patrol the streets. Usually you get a heads up about that through other people in the neighborhood. By then, I would have probably long been gone. But that's around the time you want to get your shit together and bounce. The problem with bugging out from the cities is there's too many variables. And that's a hard question for a lot of people to answer. People ask me that, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, like, listen, if the city was shut down because of some pandemic and it wiped out, I don't know, 80% of the population, whatever, would I leave? I probably wouldn't. But if the civil unrest was real, and I'm talking about they're trying to burn down homes and come into door to doors and steal what you have, I think definitely by that point I'd be gone. But again, it's all situational. It all depends on what's going on. So real quick, sorry, our bad, Autumn, Nick, Siova, and Rod. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. I'm pretty sure I said Siova wrong, but again, I apologize. But thank you for the donation. So now, these are basic questions people have been asking, so I've been trying to pick them up. I know the answer to two of them, but I want my, viewers to know. So now, do you camp?
Do I camp? Yeah, absolutely, I camp. Yeah.
Okay.
Whenever I can get time. I wish I was camping right now.
All right. And now, do you can, like canning? Do you do that as well?
Oh, do I can?
Yeah.
No, I don't can. That's something that I've definitely, that's been on my to-do list for sure.
All right. Do you garden?
I do a bit of gardening, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a small garden with potatoes, carrots, like the staples, celery,
All right. And
nothing too exotic.
And I know the answer to this, but do you hunt?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
Very good. So now, Kitty Webb made a comment about homeless person or people know how to survive. I've always had an issue with that statement because homeless people still rely on the system. They still rely on the government. For some of them, they do get income, and they go to whatever the office is to collect their income. Some people rely on the soup kitchens, the donations they get from people in the streets from panhandling. So homeless people are not the best survivalists. Now, there are some homeless people who do survive out in the wilderness. Those are few far in between. Those I would absolutely say can live during an SHTF situation. But homeless people as a whole, they're still reliant on the system. That I don't know why. That one sort of irks me because I watch homeless people every day here in the city, and they are all reliant on New Yorkers to get them to their next meal. From panhandling, going to the soup kitchen, whatever it is. They're not the best or true survivalists, if you will. I just had to clarify that because it's, like I said, I watch homeless people all the time. And if people abandon the city tomorrow, homeless people will be like everyone else, screwed. They'd be without any support. And they get support from the people from the city. Whether you're giving them money or food, that's getting support. That's not true. It's not true survivalism, if you will. Can or dance? No. Nope, not asking that. All right. Also, do you own a dehydrator? And do you dehydrate?
I don't dehydrate because I have a freeze dryer.
Oh, so,
shit. Okay, yeah. So I mean, that's it's kind of the upscale dehydrator, right?
Okay.
Yeah, Harvest Right freeze dryers. Check them out.
Do me a favor. I'd like you to email that to me. Come hell or high water, I'm going to try to get one in this apartment. But
yeah.
I know it's a bit of a pain in the ass to to get one in an apartment. But if I could definitely double down on storing away more food, absolutely get that.
Yeah, they're a bit loud unless you get the oilless vacuum pump.
Right.
But even that might be too loud for an apartment. So,
Okay.
I would say save that idea for after you get out of New York.
Gotcha. But listen, for all the people here that play loud music at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure I would tell them to go screw themselves if I'm trying to dehydrate in the middle of the day. Listen, that's just my what you call. Okay,
hey,
so
they can't evict you right now, anyways. So
no, not at all. Oh, so what is your favorite fixed blade knife, or knife in general?
Well, I mean, I don't really have favorites, but the ones that I've been using most lately are Survival Lily's Apo 1. That's the one that's in my bug out bag, if you will, right now.
Okay.
Another one that's pretty much very similar to that. There's some differences though. Is the Cold Steel SK5. That's a good, affordable, all-around knife.
Oh, I heard of that knife too. I was looking to. A couple years ago, I went knife crazy and I bought anything and everything that looked good. I have a new one that I'm supposed to announce September 15th. They gave me to test it out. It's really cool. I love the weight distribution on it. It's sharp as hell. It comes sharp. So I guess I'm doing a video on it. I guess tomorrow, but I can't release it till the 15th. It's a Kickstarter knife, and it's like it's one of those. It's almost an all-in-one knife. I'm pretty intrigued by it right now.
Yeah. Well, if it's on Kickstarter, I'm guessing it has some pretty unique features then, if it's a Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah. I mean, other than there's some unique features on it. I wouldn't say no, but I wouldn't say it was Well, I wouldn't say it was that unique, but it's definitely
Nothing revolutionary.
Say again?
Nothing revolutionary, but
right, exactly.
Combination of various attributes.
Right. Talk about that proper. All right. So listen, we are at the 1 hour mark, and I think we're done. There were a lot of questions, but I can't keep up, and my computer is telling me to go screw myself right now. I think it's going to, shut off on me. I need a new computer. I'm that guy. I'm that cheap dude that buys the things I don't need, but stuff I need, I what you call it? I don't do it.
Hey, as long as it gets the job done, that's all that matters.
Yeah, this thing's about to not get the job done. But all right. So 2 things I do want to mention before we go off the air. And I spoke about it earlier. I mentioned it earlier. Your bug out roll. I talked about it earlier, and I remember when you first came out with it, I was a bit skeptical. I was like, no way, like this bag, and then, you sent me one, and I test it out, and I get to use it, and I'm like, this bag is, it's legit, man. The material, the toughness behind it, the weight, the fact that it's water resistant. I can actually carry it as a backpack as long as I get straps for it. You can definitely survive a few nights with it. Not even 3 days or 3 nights. I would say a few nights. I think the bug out roll, and this is not a shameless ad for him. I'm just going over his bag. Now, I did do a video on it. I released it last year, but my old channel got deleted. I'm re-releasing the video probably tomorrow or Saturday.
Oh, nice.
But I also wanted to mention your store. So for those of you that do not know, which shouldn't be many, but for those of you that don't, Canadian Prepper has his own store. I am going to put the store link in the description section below. And in the store, he sells the bug out roll. You guys should definitely take a look at it. It is absolutely worth the money. That's all I can say about it. But I would like you to talk a little more about your store, if you will.
Yeah, just on the topic of the bug out rule. It's something I haven't really promoted too much on the channel lately. But yeah, that's a lot of people's impression, is that you see it first and you're kind of skeptical. But when you actually get it out into the wilderness, into a camping setting, or even just as a very durable organizer, you start to understand why it's so useful to have all your stuff off the ground and, to have it all there visually. And we actually make them here in Canada, so the margins on them are not that good, to be honest. We don't
Right.
really make much money off them. But, it's one of those things. We could outsource it and not have the same quality control, but we just don't want to do that. It's just a pain in the ass to do all that, even though we'd probably make a lot more money if we did it that way. But, here we're able to employ some people locally, and we get to, have more creative control over what we do with it. So it's a modular system, so you can kind of customize it a bit. And as for the store, my whole goal with the store is to kind of separate the wheat from the chaff, because as you were saying earlier, there's just so much gear on the market nowadays that to find one place where you can reliably get high quality gear that that anything you buy from there is going to be quality. It's not always going to be the best price. Like, you're not going to get Amazon prices or Walmart prices, but that's because the stuff we have there, it's high premium quality stuff. So I take the philosophy of buy once, cry once. And I've been burned so many times by buying the cheaper thing, and then it breaks down way sooner than if you would have just paid an extra $20 or something. So, it's when it comes to gear, it is very important. A lot of people maybe make it to be too much of a deal in prepping, but at the same time, when you need it, when you're actually using it in the field, and you would know this because you do a lot of weekend outings, is that it gets beat up pretty good. So it doesn't take long to beat up a knife or anything for that matter, a tent. After one night's worth of use, you can really put it through its paces in a stormy night or depending on the terrain. So you have to have reliable quality gear. And for some people, the price tags are off-putting. But if you want something that's actually going to last when you need it to last, then, it's just one of those things. You have to be willing to spend a bit more. So, but that's the whole philosophy behind the store is, there's just so much swindlers out there in this market. And as prepping gets more popular, and you're going to see it too on your channel, you're going to get all kinds of emails from people wanting to send you stuff for review, and they'll give you the free product, and they'll give you commissions and all this stuff. So you have to be really selective with what you want to promote, because there's a lot of junk out there that people who are just trying to make a buck, and that's that's how it is.
I'm going to add to that, and that's the thing. So I've been, for the last 2 years now, I've been getting emails and people wanting to send me stuff. And some of the stuff that they want to send me is pure garbage. So I don't even entertain it. I know that, some people are like, oh, it's a chance for you to, to get, but it's pure garbage, especially if it's that replicating stuff where it's the same model and build, but they slap another name on it.
Exactly.
So I learned my lesson the hard way with something like that. Though, as an item, it was still good. But back to your store. I guess my message to everyone who's watching right now, 1,700 people who are watching. Here's the rub, guys. It's better to support another prepper in a prepper store than it is to support somebody like Amazon. Yes, Amazon gets it to you fast. They get it to you a lot cheaper. But, like the Canadian prepper said, his store has the best gear and items available to you for you to get. So you don't have to sit there on Amazon for hours on end looking for it. You can go to his website and buy it, and you are supporting him. We need to support each other in this community, preppers, because no one else is going to do it. And if you're going to support, myself for my Patreon account or Super Chats, you guys can head over to his store and buy a couple of items because you're supporting him and you're getting good shit. So it's a win-win, guys. Other than that, we're going to wrap it up unless, Canadian, you have anything else to say?
No, if there's no more questions, I got flashlights I got to go review. Actually, I'm going to hit the gym first. Then I'm going to go do some flashlight reviews.
All right.
And yeah, so if there's no more questions, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Not a problem, man.
It's
Thank
been
you
fun.
thank you for coming on, by the way, being that you're busy as you are. And this was a good one, man. Thank you.
All right, brother. You take care.
Take care. Everyone else, good night.
Good night, folks.